This is the Tree of Life, Season 8, Chapter 1. In this episode, up until now, we have largely talked about direct ground as two distinct species of affirmation representing two distinct forms, what I called a priori and post-priori. We talked about how a common experience represents a reciprocal pairing of two overlapping but divergent paths. We talked about how direct ground can also represent a kind of non-contingent or unconditional action. In this episode, I would like to talk about how synchronicity is managed by the particular manifestation of a direct ground experience. To start off, in the dissolving of one's attention in any substrate, through the willing suspension of disbelief, we see that the self renders itself contingent, or conditional to some external direct ground. In that, by releasing one's attention into any substrate, one sees that one's impulses become reflexively expressed through that direct ground regardless of the actual substance of it. The example given in Many Layered Reality, in the podcast How to Create a Glitch in the Matrix, was of watching a partner play video games. In that example, one was watching one's partner interact with an attractive computer-generated avatar, which made one jealous. Thus, there is a disconnect between one's reactions and one's reason. From this we can see two things. First, that even when direct ground is a reciprocal pairing corresponding to some common experience, there is a prerequisite for the corresponding expression of impulses, relatable to one's willing suspension of disbelief, or one's faith in what one is seeing. Thus, in contrast, we can see that negating a reciprocal pairing corresponding to direct ground, either before or after the fact, requires that one disengage with this faith in what one is seeing. Thus, as a preparatory step to negation, of either kind, there must be some dissociation from one's reality, in the form of looking past what one directly observes. In other words, negation is not just a rejection of affirmation, it is a withdrawal of one's willing engagement with faith in the reality of what captures one's attention. Now, from this we can also see that our synchronicity is delimited by what captures our attention. For in the willing suspension of disbelief, we can see that one's reactions are reactive to stimuli which arises out of the direct ground, which is the substrate, regardless of whether that substrate has substance. Thus, we can see that the 9 layers or plates of expression discussed in the complete series represent 9 distinct levels where the attention can be fixed on another, 9 direct ground experiences in which our impulses can be expressed. Now, what does the willing suspension of disbelief really give you practically? When one is engaged with one's common experiences, there is a unity to two reciprocal paired actions, corresponding to two distinct paths for two actors. There is a fusion of two parallel synchronous intellectual pathways, from outward to inward. It is this basic building block of reality which resists the penetration of one's impulses into a dissonant space. Now, on another topic, it is apparent that the linkages created between disparate episodes within this podcast are not entirely coincidental, being reflections of a shifting continuity created by linking the particular days and times in which they were written. Thus, practically, we can see that the end result of the above process of negation is breaking the common linkages between the internal and external states which comprise the common experience. Thus, what we term continuity breaking is likewise a manifestation of the loss of symmetry represented by two paired direct ground experiences. Furthermore, the withdrawal of one's impulses from some substrate, through the rejection of a willing suspension of disbelief, represents a breaking of this continuity, as between those two actors. From this we see how continuity is foundational to synchronicity, and its opposite to negation. That's the end of the podcast for today.